The WNBA is offering up the big bucks.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Kalia Butler. Joined alongside me is Sophia Jones. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, on our laundry list of things today, we're going to see if UConn can go undefeated this season. They're off to a great start. Wooden Award nominees, it's a little early for it, but still a lot of contenders that were on the list last year that have the opportunity to win this season. But first, the WNBA is finally approaching some CBA agreements and have offered a new number for the players. So in their latest collective bargaining proposal, it would include revenue sharing with a max salary of more than $1.1 million available to more than just one player per team growing each year. The new league minimum would be more than $220,000 with an average of more than $460,000. Now, this is a significant increase from what we last saw and what they last spoke about before the extension was initiated on October 30th. The deadline now is still November 30th, so we're about 11 days away. Sophia, what are your thoughts about this new agreement?
Well, that maximum salary was definitely a number that I think the players wanted to prioritize in raising. So 1.1 million and above, I think is definitely moving that needle forward for these WNBA players. So I think that they have to be happy with at least that. However, the section mentioned about growing each year, I think is what's gonna maybe still cause a little bit of weight to be worked out. We don't know what that exactly is. This is stuff that was reported by the AP, but just one of the WNBA players' biggest priorities during these negotiations is that salary structure and revenue share. And so, yes, you can have 1.1 million. Yes, you can say it's going to grow each year, but how is it going to grow? The WNBA players, they've been fighting for something that is percentage wise tied to the basketball related income. Previous proposals by the league have been a fixed salary raise where it's just that linear format. So I would be interested to see if this moves the needle for the players. I mean, I think it has to a little bit because it is a substantial raise just overall. But I think that salary structure is what they're really also focusing on just to solidify something for the future growth of the game.
Yeah, there's still a level of vagueness when it comes to how that money is going to continue growing. And when we're looking into what I would say now is a comparison to an extent with Project B. We now have Jewel Lloyd that just agreed to be on Project B. So that's 4 large names from the WNBA that are going to be joining. As of right now, those seasons don't necessarily overlap, but it can be something that players are leveraging within these negotiations in terms of basically being part owners of Project B while also playing in it. Now, that's not exactly what the WNBA would look like, obviously, but it still kind of comes down to that revenue share aspect of things, which they have also implemented in Unrivaled. I think that is going to be maybe a point of contention for them where they really want to know, what does growing each year mean? Does that mean, growing with the expansion teams? Does that mean growing with attendance, viewership, whatever that may mean? But it is good to see that they are at least taking a step in the right direction where they're listening to the players, seeing maybe some alternatives. And now this is, well, we're not exactly sure if it is like a structured salary or not, or what exactly the 1.1 million would look like in other players' salaries. But it looks like it's at least a step in the right direction of hearing out the players. And me and you have both talked about $1 million seems realistic for some of the top players on the team, and even having an average of basically $500,000 a year. This is significant improvement from what we've seen of players, and even in their rookie seasons getting paid like $60,000, if that.
Yeah, so I think just having that figure, that 1.1 million and maybe above for multiple players, I think that has to be very positive for some of these players, especially when you consider that just last week Asia Wilson, she was on Good Morning America on November 13th, and she really kind of said that, or she said, for us, is continuing to stand on what we believe in and what it is to be a business and how we handle ourselves. So that kind of sounds like the WNBA Players Association is putting their foot down in what they want. That also is in conjunction with Sophie Cunningham on November 14th, telling Front Office Sports that it's been 2 weeks and they had not had a meeting. So she's not sure where they were at, but she also agreed that they're standing strong on what they want. So again, glad to see a figure. Also, when you consider the fact that the draft lottery is being held in a couple days, November 23rd already. And I think that kind of in is the beginning of what you see some of this WNBA calendar start, where okay, teams now can really start planning and figuring out who they want to pick and all this stuff. And they don't want to enter a work stoppage at that point.
Yeah, it's hard to even begin to structure what your team is going to look like when you haven't reached any negotiations, and now you do have this draft lottery coming up. And we've talked about how important this lottery is for some of the expansion teams as well. And if CBA negotiations can't come to terms soon, it kind of just backtracks everything. And I want the players to definitely stay firm in what they believe and what they want, but you hope that they can all come to an agreement soon. I think that's what everybody wants, so that they can really start preparing for what this new negotiation would look like in action for the season anyway, because each year that next season comes up very quickly. But another good point that Asia Wilson mentioned is that she said, I think we are tired of the mindset of just be grateful for what we have. No, we need to dive into that. And that's not just for the women of the league now. I think that is truly really important, because it has been for quite some time that, in terms of even kind of comments that Kathy Engelbert mentioned of, oh, well, you guys should be happy that I got you guys this media rights deal. You always see certain trolls and comments and stuff and being like, oh, well, they should just be happy that they're making money, blah, blah, blah. That's not fair. That's not what the growth of this league looks like. And we have seen the growth of this league and other women's sports as well. And I think they've made it very clear too that, this isn't just about them. These players aren't being greedy, wanting money. They want to make sure that this next generation of young girls that are looking up to them right now have the same opportunities that they do and can get paid to do so. So hopefully they are inching a little bit closer. We haven't heard just yet a lot of players' responses to it, more that they have just increased the salary right now.
Yeah, and just that mindset of Asia Wilson and that the entire Players Association kind of adopting that mindset of not wanting to, quote, just be grateful. I think that's also why they are trying to codify a couple of other things in this next CBA. So they want minimum professional standards and facilities, codifying the league's charter travel program that was introduced at the beginning of 2024, expanding retirement and pregnancy/family planning benefits, prioritization. So when they go and play in other leagues during the WNBA offseason, and they have also expressed a desire to weaken or abolish entirely the core system. So those are just other things that I think that the players are trying to establish and set in stone to again just really pave the way for the future growth of this league and just player treatment as well.
Absolutely. After this, we're going to get into the Wooden Award watch list. When Skims announced they were making underwear for men, the reaction made perfect sense. People have been talking about Skims comfort for years. Most guys, though, stick to whatever they've been buying since college, the same fits, the same waistbands that roll, and a whole lot of settling. Skims men's changes that. One upgrade, and it's obvious why. Everyone's been talking. I know my dad personally has some Skims underwear, and he said that his favorite part about the pair is the cotton 5, stretch 5, cotton 3, stretch 3. There's just so many variations, and they're all so comfortable. Shop Skims men's now at skims.com, and when you place your order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select our show from the drop down to let them know we sent you. Plus, the Skims holiday shop is open. So if you're looking for the perfect gift this season, Skim has you covered. Okay, so we love to watch all of these, awards a little bit early in the season, but it's never too early to start thinking about these things. So Wooden Award watch list, some notable names that are on there that were also there last year are UCLA center Lauren Betts, Texas forward Madison Booker, Notre Dame guard Hannah Hidalgo, and these players were all among the 5 finalists for the Wooden Award last season, and are the 50 player and are on the 50 player watch list for this year's Wooden Award. 2 other members of the 10 player Wooden All-American team would be TCU guard Olivia Miles and South Carolina's Tanaya Latson. We also have some players from UConn, including an AZ Fudd, a Sara Strong. But really quick, if you are not aware of what the award is, the Wooden Award is one of the most prestigious honors in college basketball, given annually to the most outstanding men's and women's players in the United States, voted on by college experts. It considers a player's on-court performance, academic standing, and character. It is named after legendary coach John Wooden, and the trophy features 5 figures representing the 5 skills of a complete player: shooting, dribbling, passing, defense, and rebounding. Last year, Juju Watkins was the winner of this. If you're interested on the men's side, it was Cooper Flagg. But of some of these top names that we're seeing, Sophia, Lauren Betts, Madison Booker, Hannah Hidalgo, who stands out to you most in that list for being a finalist in this? Or even let's throw an AZ Fudd in there as well.
I'll take it another step further and say I'll throw a Sara Strong in there. I think there can be different philosophies when it comes to giving awards like this. Sometimes it's just okay, who does embody all those qualities that you mentioned, or a lot of times voters will look towards who is the best player on the best team. And I think if we're maybe doing a little bit of combination of both, I would look towards Sara Strong. I think the way that UConn has been playing this season with her at the forefront, her and AZ Fudd, but I think Sara Strong just has such a complete game, maybe even more than what you described that award as being, just with offense, defense, all the different skill sets. So I think right now Sara Strong would have to be my favorite.
I feel like I have to add another big too. I think Lauren Betts is going to have a very strong season. We already saw that she did last year. She's an All-American player for a reason. I believe when we're looking at, those 5 skills that are representing a complete player, I believe that her shooting has improved, but also she's 6'7". She's not necessarily pulling out as much as some of the other players on the list. I think her overall game in terms of dribbling, passing, we've seen her be a really good facilitator as well, especially when the defense is coming down on her. Defensively, she is a rim protector. We know that. And obviously, she's got the rebounding component down as well. I think she'll be really strong for this season, and I think it's going to prove throughout the rest of how UCLA continues to play and how she leads this team. We've talked about how this is probably the last chance for UCLA for maybe a little while to win a national championship. And a lot of that is going to be rallying behind Lauren Betts. And I mean, she's got her sister on the team now too. You know, there's youngins looking up to her, but obviously just that senior class too. You see how much people rally behind her, and she has so many key weapons to help her out. So I believe that Lauren Betts could be one of the top contenders for this, because we've also just seen her character not only on the court, but off court as well.
Definitely. I would agree with you that Lauren Betts has to be an extremely strong candidate on that list. Another one that I'm not surprised, but I will be interested to see how they play out would be Hannah Hidalgo, because just in the fashion that Notre Dame did lose their game this past weekend against Michigan, they lost by 39 points. I don't know if that's an indication of what's to come for this Notre Dame team, if they will be able to stay afloat and be good enough to be in contention. Because you have to have a team that's good enough for then a player to be in contention for an award like that. And this isn't discounting what Hannah Hidalgo has done. She, I mean, broke the steals record in the NCAA the other game with 16 steals. So I think her spot on there is still very well deserved, because regardless of who's surrounding her, I think she's still one of the best players in women's college basketball. It just is going to depend on how good her team is honestly able to be around her.
Yeah, I agree with you on that too. Obviously, we don't want to necessarily hold Notre Dame too low to the fashion that they lost to Michigan, but at the same time, when you're looking later on into the season and looking at how these awards are going to be chosen, this is going to probably play a factor into that. However, if Notre Dame can kind of flip a switch this year and have a completely different season that maybe some expect, I believe she would be a strong candidate on this list as well. Just because kind of going back to those 5 pillars defensively, if you have 16 steals, I think you're doing something right. We obviously know what a defender Hannah Hidalgo is. Shooting, dribbling. She's obviously the point guard for this Notre Dame team, has the most offensive production out of everyone on the team. In that same 16 steals, she also had 44 points. So we know that she could go and get a bucket too. And the passing, assist, maybe rebounding can throw in there a little bit more. But I think it kind of goes back to the leadership aspect of things that we have talked about with her before, making sure that she can rally her team behind her. We saw how that team collapsed a little bit in their loss to Michigan, when she wasn't able to produce in the same way that she typically does. And, you know, some of that leadership, even like when we see Lauren Betts, when Lauren Betts isn't having a fantastic game offensively, we've seen her impact the game in other ways, which keeps her teammates afloat. We didn't necessarily see that from Hannah Hidalgo as much in their loss towards Michigan. So I think part of that is going to center when it comes to who is getting votes. They're incorporating not only your on-court performance, but your off-court performance too. So I think the leadership qualities, maybe they would want to see a little bit more of that from her once they get later down the line in this.
Yeah, and I mean, that Michigan game was so early in the season as well, so they definitely have a lot of time to turn things around. And just talking about with last year's winner being Juju Watkins, I think that's also where you are highlighting individual performance very strongly, because UConn was a team that won the national championship. You have a team like UCLA who was extremely dominant and that number 1 seed for a very long time, but they gave it more so to the individual player of Juju Watkins, because I'm sure as everyone knows, she was just incredible last season. I'm trying to find what their final record was. But yeah, UCLA last season overall finished 31-4. 17-1 in conference. So they did their thing as a team, but even I think when you're considering some of the other programs surrounding them, they weren't regarded as that team to beat when it came to tournament time. But Juju did end up winning that award. So I think they do look at just overall individual basketball player, which I would put someone like a Hannah Hidalgo up there, but would also make me a little bit hesitant to see if they would if they would give the award to maybe a Tanaya Latson or a Joyce Edwards or even a Raven Johnson of South Carolina, because that team more so is team oriented rather than surrounded by one individual.
Absolutely. But while we're talking about some of these top teams, we're going to get back to UConn, the reigning national champions, if they can go undefeated this season.
If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnba. That's rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free.
All right. Can UConn do it back-to-back years? Now, we've seen the men's team be able to do it. I have the utmost confidence that the UConn women's basketball team can repeat from last season to this season. It seems like they've kind of picked up right where they left off after winning the title last season, honestly, obviously minus having Paige Beckers, but with the caliber of players that still remained, Paige was kind of the main piece that left. But when you're looking at a Sara Strong and AZ Fudd, we've heard Gino Ariema talk about it multiple times. That is who he is looking to basically every timeout that they have and who the next play is going to involve. However, it's not just them. 11 players are averaging double-figure minutes and no player more than 27 minutes. So they also have a very balanced team this season too. Kaylee Heckle has been a great fit as a transfer from USC. KK Arnold has been a little bit more aggressive and looking to score more often as well as Blanca Quinones. Am I saying it right?
Quiñones.
Quinones. She's one of kind of the most intriguing freshmen so far, and she has shown her size and athleticism too, and her ability to fit in with this UConn team. In your opinion, Sophia, what have you seen from UConn that can maybe make them an undefeated team this season, as well as strong contenders to have back-to-back titles?
They're just looking incredibly dominant right now. That season opener win against then 20 ranked Louisville, they looked very strong there. And they've had solid wins, blowout wins actually, against Florida State and Ohio State. So still, Power Four schools. But this UConn team is just looking extremely cohesive. You talk about that depth. So you're never getting it just from one person, but multiple players are really affecting the game positively. And just some of the people that you mentioned, I mean, when you can have a Kaylee Heckle coming off the bench, she's averaging 8 points off of 44% field goals. Like that's extremely efficient. I've I think that she's anytime she comes in the game, she's really helped give them a spark. KK Arnold, I think, has really risen up to her point guard those big UConn point guard shoes to fill because there have been a lot of legends in that position, and I think she's been doing a great job. Like you said, it's really a step forward for her to get more comfortable expanding her range and not just being pass first. And you know what? She doesn't have to be entirely pass first because Sara Strong is averaging 5 assists for her, and she just attracts so much. And I'm going to read some of these numbers for Sara Strong. She's averaging 20.5 points, 8.8 rebounds, 5 assists on 61% shooting. That is just dominance through and through. And so I think when you have not just one player as a cornerstone, but everyone working so cohesively, that's what makes UConn so dangerous. And in terms of talking about undefeated, their next big game is against Michigan, who's ranked 6th right now. They had that really dominant win against Notre Dame. That will be a very interesting test, but just kind of looking more at their non-conference schedule because they're most likely gonna do pretty well in the Big East. It's actually quite interesting because I called a Seton Hall game the other day, and Seton Hall actually received one first place vote in the preseason poll for that, which I do with that as you will, but I think
You all have
UConn
hopes and dreams.
exactly. But some of their off our non-conference opponents that are currently ranked, they will be playing USC in mid-December, Iowa mid-December, Notre Dame mid-January, and then Tennessee first day of February, which that one they must have just sneaked that one in because that's
That's
usually
it.
when everything is conference based. But looking at some of those just ranked opponents currently, I think this Michigan one, especially early in the season when they're riding a high after that Notre Dame game, will be interesting. But overall, this team looks so incredibly strong on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I think one of those interesting games to come up and won't come up for a little bit of time, but it's going to be the Tennessee one, just because Tennessee did beat UConn last year. And I know that UConn probably has that one circled on their schedule because they are going to want to avenge that defeat in the name of Paige, probably. But if you're looking at some of, and even when you brought up Sara Strong's numbers too, it's not like they're doing this against weak teams. Louisville, and Gina was really happy with their win against Louisville. Florida State, Ohio State, those are all very strong contenders that they are still kind of blowing out the water. I agree with you. Michigan is going to be a really good test for them, as well as a good test for Michigan to see if they can carry over that dominance they had over Notre Dame. Utah is strong. Notre Dame, that's going to be an interesting one too. So most looking forward to Tennessee, but also most looking forward to USC. I believe, we saw that USC versus basically USC game where South Carolina came out on top, but USC, obviously a different team without Juju Watkins, but have shown some resilience to start this season with such a young core. Can that outlast a UConn, though, that is just so well put together, so well structured, and has really strong leadership on this team as well? I don't know, but Tennessee, I think they'll take Tennessee for sure. USC might be one of a stronger contender for them. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for these next couple of games that they have because they do have some strong competition that they're going up against. And if they can remain as dominant as they are, I believe that they are going to stay undefeated because the Big East will be a breeze for them and maybe win a championship once again.
Yeah, even looking at some of the main contenders right now in the top 5 between South Carolina, UCLA, Texas, and LSU, I can see them beating all those teams down the line during March as well. Again, it's still very early, but these are the kinds of bold claims that get the people going early on in the season. But UConn, they look incredibly strong, and I would even throw in the fact that for a player like Azzi Fudd, who will most likely enter the WNBA draft after this season, this is the year that she really has to improve her stock and rise up as many places as possible. We don't know what's going to happen with the draft lottery that will be coming up on November 23rd, so very soon. But I could imagine if the Dallas Wings get the number one pick, that she would want to play with Paige Beckers on that team.
We could only imagine. And honestly, if they are on the same team, it's over with for everyone. Dallas might make a brand new rise. But thank you so much for watching Locked On Women's Basketball. We will see you guys again tomorrow.